America. 50 states promising freedom for all. But today, under state law in 29 states, a business could refuse service because of who you love. Housing could be denied because of your gender identity. Medical care could be rejected because you're a woman with a wife. In 29 states, basic freedoms are missing for millions of LGBTQ+ Americans. This flag is the LGBTQ+ reality. But we can change it, because this is America.
Hello. If you're just now tuning into my channel, my name is Boho Bonnie. I want to take a moment to welcome you. Thanks for tuning in. You'll find all kinds of things on this channel. This is really kind of my opportunity to kind of get creative and learn video editing better and really dive into the topics and issues that I find important. One of those being LGBTQ+ advocacy and non-discrimination measures. And so today we're going to be talking about a bill called the Equality Act. And you just saw that amazing video that the Human Rights Campaign actually just released yesterday. Fantastic work on that. And it really dives into how important passage of this legislation is. So I'm going to be sharing with you today what the Equality Act is and why it's so important and what we can do to help support its passage through the federal legislature. Before we get started, please take a moment to go ahead and like that video, press that subscribe button so you can support my channel and get notifications when I release future content. Let's go ahead and get started. So what is the Equality Act? And why are we still fighting for it to be passed after 40 years? 40 years, y'all. Simply put, the primary purpose of the Equality Act is to amend the 1964 Civil Rights Act to extend federal non-discrimination protections to the LGBTQ+ community. The bill has had several iterations dating all the way back to the 70s, and it also serves to define and expand covered discrimination, since, let's be honest, a lot has changed since 1964, right? For example, while the Civil Rights Act provides protections to covered communities for employment and housing, it does not explicitly protect individuals against discrimination within federally funded programs or public accommodations, which has been defined by the Equality Act to include retail establishments, organized sports, and transportation providers, just to name a few. In this regard, the Equality Act takes the primarily racially motivated protections of the Civil Rights Act and future-proofs them for the 21st century, which helps not only the LGBTQ+ community, but also all of the marginalized communities that the Civil Rights Act originally sought to protect in the first place. One reason that LGBTQ+ activists are pushing this legislation so hard is because the states are divided in offering these protections at the state level. As of 2021, there are still 29 states where you can legally be fired just for being in the LGBTQ+ community. Activists believe that adding concrete protections for the community is long overdue, and according to recent national polls, a majority of Americans agree. So with all this public support, why has the Equality Act had such a hard time passing? Well, opponents of the bill argue that religious freedom is central to their opposition. We've seen this play out in small bakeries and flower shops refusing to provide service to LGBTQ patrons because of their belief that being gay or transgender is morally or ethically wrong, and as such, against their religious beliefs. The Equality Act would override the Religious Freedom Restoration Act, or RFRA, which was passed in 1993 and has been used repeatedly as a defense in discrimination cases involving LGBTQ+ people. Opponents argue that the legislation goes too far and that by giving protections to LGBTQ plus people, that the law would actually strip protections from those who have religious objections to serving this community. Recent objections have also highly targeted transgender rights specifically, claiming that the Equality Act would be a setback to women's rights and that biological males claiming female identity would put biological females at a disadvantage, whether it be transgender males using the women's restroom, staying at women's homeless shelters, or participating in women's sports. Funny, the people spouting these claims never seemed too interested in women's sports before. These are the same arguments that have been used for years in order to pass state-level religious freedom bills and effectively vilify transgender women on unproven and sensationalized false premises. So last year wasn't actually the first time that the Equality Act had passed through the House. It was, however, actually the first time of it having the chance of passing through both houses, and it already had the commitment to be signed by the sitting president. So because it did not pass last year, it has to go back through the House, back through the Senate, but we have the opportunity to actually pass it and get it signed by President Biden, and that's why you're hearing so much about it right now. So we're expecting it to pass through the House again this year. And once it makes it to the Senate, it will need 60 votes in order to pass through and head on to President Biden's desk. Now, this means we're going to need a few Republican senators on our side. So this is why employers such as mine, Dell Technologies, and others have formed a coalition where we are constantly talking to each other, sharing best practices, and calling on these Republican senators to tell them our stories, tell them why passing the Equality Act is not only important to us, but it's important to our companies, because Republican senators will listen to you if you talk to them in that pro-business tone. What is not passing the Equality Act doing to our employees in this state, in these particular states where they don't have these protections? We've got employees living in Oklahoma, such as myself, Texas, Tennessee, states where our employees are quite honestly under attack. And we need federal protections in order to make sure our employees feel safe and valued and comfortable and non-discriminated against no matter where they choose to live. We need to make sure that these Republican senators hear our LGBTQ plus and ally voices loud and clear. Some may be swayed by authentic and personal storytelling, as we know that that is the best way to change hearts and minds. Then again, like I said, pro-business Republicans may be more perceptive to the business argument that diverse and inclusive policies are good business and good for our bottom line. So we ask that you go to senate.gov and choose your state from the drop-down menu in order to find the 2 senators serving your state at the federal level. If either or both senators listed is a Republican, as noted by an R next to their name, we ask that you reach out to the senators via phone and email. If both of your state senators are Democrats, choose a neighboring state with a Republican senator to reach out to. I'm going to provide some example phone and email scripts to help get you started. So will 2022 be the year that LGBTQ plus people secured non-discrimination protections at the federal level? Only time will tell. I really hope that this video was helpful and encourage you to check out the additional resources that I've linked below. I want to take a moment to thank Dell Technologies for continuing to fight this good fight. And I want to thank Human Rights Campaign, America Competes, Texas Competes, Freedom Oklahoma, everybody who is working so hard in their individual states. I know I can't list all of you, but I know that there's so many people that are doing so much amazing work behind the scenes. We need the community to step up, make these phone calls, send these emails. We need that authentic storytelling. We need people to open their hearts and minds to the fact that we don't feel safe in our own states and we need protection. We need somebody to stand up for us at the federal level. So thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you got a little bit out of this. I hope that you'll take a moment to phone or email your senator. And without further ado, also take a moment to subscribe to my channel. Let's get the Equality Act passed in 2022. Take care. Have a good weekend. Bye-bye.